Hey, what's up? Welcome to this week's Commanders Countdown. This wide receiver controversy going on right now and the contracts, and mostly with Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin, at least, for us, Washington and Niner fans. There's just a lot of talk with Deebo, especially. His situation's a little bit different with the way things have gone, which, we can get more into. But just on a base level, like the contracts that you're seeing and these players, they obviously want to be paid, and there's just all this controversy around it, and it's like, well, it's either they're going to get paid or they're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So, these teams, you got to make the decision and get a contract done.
Yeah, and the going rate for the upper echelon of wide receivers now seems to be that 25 million number.
25 million, yeah.
Yeah, so that seems to be what everybody's trying to get. So, of course, we've got the big four right now. Like you said, the two that are most prevalent or that affect us the most are the Deebo and Terry situations. But you've, of course, got Seattle's DK Metcalf and Tennessee's A.J. Brown as well, who all want their money and all deserve money because they're all great players. But at the same point, like we are in the situation, and I guess we could let's talk about Terry's first. So of the four, Terry, as a team leader, has said that he's going to report to Washington's offseason program, and all that's.
And there was rumors speculating that he wasn't going to go,
right.
But then I also read further, like he's gonna show up, but he may not actually work out. Like I've seen various different things, but
I expect him to get that deal done. I mean, I would, of the four deals, and this is, of course, I don't have any inside information, but I would expect Terry's gets done first. Because
I would agree as well. I would think there seems to be the least controversy there. Like Terry just obviously wants to get paid, what he deserves.
Yeah.
And I would think if Washington was smart, they're obviously gonna, try and keep him. He's literally like the biggest weapon on offense we have.
Yeah.
So they would be really, really dumb, especially just acquiring Carson Wentz. Like Carson's gonna need weapons. If we can't pick up somebody else, even just to pair with Terry, like let alone think of like not having Terry anymore. It's like, come on. That's a player, you got to retain.
Like, and then there's always the discussion, that people will have that's like, oh, well, you can trade somebody like that for multiple first-round picks like they did with Tyreek.
Yeah,
but,
and maybe get some new receiver in the draft. Yeah, but that's a gamble, man. You could get,
exactly.
for every 5 draft picks, 4 of them are shit, and then maybe one.
I will always mention to Niners fans who, say draft a receiver in the first round or something, A.J. Jenkins. And the fact that you haven't, or most Niners fans probably haven't heard of that name, is he caught 0 passes, and in the NFL, and he was literally a first-round pick. In my opinion, he's the biggest Niners bust in all time, and that includes Giovanni Carmazzi. I always got to give Gio.
I knew you were going to go to him.
I always got to give Gio his time. But, yeah. So anyway, yes.
That was a sad story. I never heard about him until I met you.
He's a go farmer.
The Niners history, and I'm like, oh my God, what a terrible story that one is.
Yeah. Could have had Tom Brady take Giovanni Carmazzi. That worked out well. Fucking one of the biggest regrets in 49er history.
That is, like shit. Yeah, that one's bad.
So yeah, like Terry. Let's talk about why Terry, deserves his money real quick, and then we'll move on. He's been in the NFL 3 seasons. The 2 most recent seasons, he's gone over 1,000 yards.
1,000, right? Okay. The first season he didn't go over 1,000, right? It was like
he was damn close. 58 catches for 919 yards and 7 touchdowns.
919. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say 930 something, but
and then his second year, he caught 87 passes for 1,118 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then this last year, 77 catches, 1,053 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And that's been playing with a collection of different quarterbacks over that time as well. So if you can give him the same quarterback for 17 games, I'm excited. Like Terry could have a 1,300-yard.
And a quarterback with like an actual strong arm. Like I loved Heineke, and I hope he's on the team for years to come as the backup. But like Carson probably has a stronger arm than him.
Oh, of course he does. Yeah.
I know he's still there. I'm just saying. I hope in my opinion, like given the backups in the league, like I don't think you can beat Heineke. Like man, Heineke. If you're gonna rank backups, Heineke should be number 1 in terms of backups, at least in my opinion.
I mean, we got to make that argument. Like, are we considering Jimmy Garoppolo now a backup?
No,
because if that's the case,
okay, fine. I guess if he was, maybe Jimmy'd be slightly better. Yes, but But as of right
then you've
now,
always got to make the argument, like whether I like it or not, for Nick Foles. Nick Foles came in there and just won a Super Bowl for a franchise against Tom Brady for the Eagles. So
that's true, but that was years ago.
That was
so
years
that's
ago.
less current.
Yeah.
I'm talking like like maybe 2-3
Yeah.
years. Like that was like 2017, right?
Still, teams covet Nick Foles. I don't know if the Bears
Yeah,
are going to keep
yeah.
him. So we'll see. But anyway, moving on to the Deebo part of this. So the Deebo thing's a little bit more unsure because there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of reports that are coming out that are we don't know if they're true. So Schefter will report something, and Schefter's been called out a few times recently for things because like Schefter will come out and say that like Deebo has requested a trade. And then like Deebo's come out on social media and been like, man, Schefter's like full of it. And, like pretty much like defeated those rumors and said that the only people that really, because like I guess in intergroups it was being said that Deebo's brother was saying that they were wanting out of San Francisco and requesting a trade. And then Deebo's brother like said, he's like, I'm just trolling y'all. He's like, I don't even know what's going on with my brother. And then, like, Deebo came out and said, the only people that know what's going on with the situation are me, the Niners, and my agent, which would make sense. So, pretty much alluding to Schefter being full of it. But basically,
that's unusual though. Usually Schefter is like
usually he's pretty on point. But
so that makes me a little like maybe Deebo's trying to be like, no, I didn't ask for a trade when he really did.
Maybe. So
I mean, you never know.
And that's really.
Because he also got death threats and shit. That was one thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, like he got death threats.
Yeah, that was really uncool.
Like,
I did
Niner
not
fans
like that at all.
It's like, dude, what is this shit,
whether
dude?
Deebo ever plays another down for the Niners, I wish Deebo the best, and I thank Deebo for his service with us. I mean, he helped us in 2019 get to a Super Bowl and right on the door one last season. So, love and respect always for you, 19. Whether he ever suits up as a Niner again or not. First and foremost.
Also, a side note, just to, in terms of honoring him, a lot of people might think his name is Deebo Samuels because I see that all over the internet.
It's Samuel.
And it's Samuel. There's no S.
Yeah,
just if you weren't aware of that.
Yeah. Curtis Samuel is also not plural at the end. It's also Samuel.
Yeah.
Chris.
I think I've seen it with that too.
Former Redskin player Chris Samuels did have an S though.
There you go. There's one. There's one.
Yeah, we'll just throw that in there. Just give Chris Samuels his just due. But yeah, Deebo, of course, he's been in the NFL 3 years as well. His first year was 2019, our Super Bowl run, when he caught 57 passes for 802 yards and 3 touchdowns. Although that year he was basically our secondary option to Emmanuel Sanders and George Kittle, or second or third option. He was a rookie that year. So 2020, he only played in 7 games, and obviously he was battling injuries the entire season. He only caught 33 passes, 391 yards, and 1 touchdown. Between his first 2 seasons, he only had about 20 carries between the 2 of them. So we really weren't using him as much as a running back until this past season. When he had,
I was going to say that's one other thing that kind of could add to his value or make it more of an issue is because they do use him in so many things. So he might be like, he might also not, I saw reports he's not happy with the fact that they use him quite that much in all those various different situations. It's like, Deebo, today you're going to play tight end. Deebo, today you're going to play, it's like.
That's the other thing we wanted to mention as well. So like, just to recap, his most recent season, he caught 77 passes for 1,400 yards and led the NFL with 18.2 yards of reception and 6 receiving touchdowns. And then he also had, how many touchdowns did he have on the ground? I think it was like
4 or 5, I think, something like that.
He had 8. No, he had 8 on the ground.
8?
Yeah. So he had 14 total touchdowns. So, with that being said, that adds to the money. It's like, okay, so top receivers are getting paid $25 million a year, but it's like he's like a running back, wide receiver. He's a wide back, as they call it. So, what's a wide back worth? So, top running backs are only worth about, running backs really don't get shit in the grand scheme of the NFL as far as...
It also depends on what Deebo wants to be used as himself. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't want to be doing all that different stuff and putting his body through all of that.
And that's what he said, because obviously he knows that that's going to shorten his career, even as big and as physical as Deebo is, because he's a big wide receiver. I mean, he's 6 foot, 215 pounds, so he's big for a wide receiver, and he's thick. So I mean but yeah, I mean running backs usually in the NFL don't make it past 30. I mean Frank Gore's a wonder for doing just that for the career that he's had.
Or Adrian
Yeah,
Peterson, like similar. It's like, Jesus, dude,
exactly.
how are you still
Those
going?
are the rare exceptions to the rule. Those are not common situations. Running backs usually top out at 30. So he, realizing that, wants to get his money, and that's the thing. Eventually, it was talked about as like he wants his money. Then it was maybe just talked about that he just doesn't want to be used that way anymore. So
Right.
maybe it's not about money. Maybe it's just like he wants to stay with the Niners. Maybe make 20, 25 million a season, but just be used as a prototypical wide receiver. But I get that. I mean, he certainly helps our running game, but I wouldn't say that we exclusively needed to use him in that role. I mean, we have Elijah Mitchell, we have Jeff Wilson, we have good running backs, and if Trey's the starter, that's going to add an element to our running game right there. So, I mean...
Yeah, they shouldn't really need, in theory, if you have other players that can fill the role, appropriately.
I still think
you shouldn't really need to use him.
I still think, he gets maybe 5 or 10 handoffs a season on like a jet sweep.
Absolutely, which they do. A lot of teams do that anyway with their wide receivers.
But
Terry, I'm pretty sure, has done that a few times.
But he had 59 carries last season.
Yeah, that's like insane for a wide receiver.
To go with his 77 catches. So, I mean, like that.
Yeah, that's insane. That's almost half. That's literally almost the same number. I mean, close.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
that'll be very interesting to see what happens.
We'll monitor all these situations
especially
with DK, with AJ Brown, with Terry, and with Deebo. Obviously, the draft's coming up in about a week. So if any of these guys are going to be moved, you expect it to be while these teams have draft capital. But I really don't see any of them. I mean, from my opinion, I don't see any of them getting moved. I would think that all those teams want to make those deals.
I would hope so for all those teams' sake, even the ones that I don't mind.
Yeah.
Like, shit.
I mean,
like you should probably keep those guys, that are key to your offense and that are up and coming players like that.
I feel bad for Derrick Henry in Tennessee if they get rid of AJ Brown because that he's basically their only threat at that point.
That would be. Oh Jesus, I didn't even think about that.
And I feel bad for Drew Lock or whoever. Well, no, I don't feel bad for Seattle's starter because
I was gonna say, what are you saying?
Without DK. Like that makes them. I mean, they still have Tyler Lockett.
That's why I said Seattle's in for a rough ass fucking season, dude. They are gonna have. It's gonna be fun watching Seattle lose, like 12 games or more next season.
Goodness.
I know you're gonna love every second of that.
Yeah. But then they get a top pick.
At least 10. At least 10. Yeah. At least 10. Maybe not 12, but at least 10. I'm gonna say it now. They're gonna lose at least 10 games.
But then they'd end up drafting like top 5 overall. Probably end up getting a franchise quarterback the next.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. They would, like fucking goddamn Packers. Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. You know what? Fuck you guys.
It's better for me if they go like 7 and 10. So like at least
right.
Good enough to like keep themselves out of the top 10, but shitty enough to not give us any trouble for a playoff spot.
Right. So unfortunately, we have some more bad news in regards to the organization. It's unfortunate to have to constantly talk about these things. It seems like as they happen one after another. But it is news, and it does involve Washington. So the U.S. House Oversight Committee sent a letter to the Federal Trade Commission on Tuesday saying it found evidence the Commanders might have engaged in potentially unlawful financial conduct for more than a decade by withholding ticket revenue from visiting teams and refundable deposits from the fans.
Yeah.
In the letter, the committee outlined through the testimony of former employees and access to emails and documents a pattern of alleged financial impropriety by owner Dan Snyder. And just a quick side note here. Fuck Dan Snyder, as I'm sure we all agree.
Yeah, pretty much.
At one point in 2016, the committee said the team may have retained up to $5 million from 2,000 season ticket holders, while also potentially concealing shareable revenue from the league.
$5 million. It's kind of a lot.
That is kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Although I do know a lot of this information came from one particular former employee.
Okay.
Who I don't believe there was any actual evidence yet at this point to substantiate. That's what these people are saying. That's what they're claiming is what happened.
Okay.
But is there actual proof to back these things up yet?
Okay.
Not to this point.
Yeah, and I see here that it says the former employee testified before Congress saying that the team had two separate financial books, one with underreported ticket revenue that went to the NFL, and then the full complete picture. And then, according to the testimony, Dan Snyder was aware of the numbers shared with the league, while also being privy to the actual data. So,
yeah, which I guess this practice was known as juice inside of Washington's front office. You know, according to this guy. You know, until there's things to back it up.
OJ the Juice Simpson. True. They're giving it the Juice's name, huh?
Obviously, in response, Washington, categorically denied any suggestion of financial impropriety of any kind.
Of course.
At any time, regardless of at this time or any other time. They were quoted as saying, "We adhere to strict internal processes that are consistent with industry and accounting standards and are audited annually by a globally respected independent auditing firm, and are also subject to regular audits by the NFL. We continue to cooperate fully with the committee's work."
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously these are statements, that they, you would expect an organization to release. They also
just put those out.
They also continued and said, "We continue to cooperate with the Oversight Committee and have provided more than 210,000 pages of documents to the NFL, has engaged former SEC Chair Mary Jo White to review serious matters raised by the committee."
Oof.
Yeah, it's going to be that's a big investigation. So if there is anything to be found, then I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of hope there's not, but.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to wonder like what kind of sanctions they would impose on the team for that, or if it would be like on the team, or if it would be on Dan Snyder specifically.
I would imagine it would be probably on Dan Snyder if it goes down, and if that's the case, then I wouldn't necessarily be against it. Then if it gets Dan Snyder out, then this is stuff that happened in the past, and they're trying to rebuild and do things differently.
Yeah, I mean,
Dan Snyder's been under fire for the last year or two anyway. He's not even running the team now. It's his wife. He's not running it. His wife is. Yeah. But given all of that, I wouldn't be surprised.
I've just seen like teams lose draft picks and shit like that or be fined. So. You really hope that the team doesn't suffer for this front office bullshit that obviously the players have and the coaches have no control over.
I don't think that would happen, considering it did happen years ago. So if it was going to be something like that, it would most likely be some kind of monetary fine. I don't think it's going to do something to affect the current team or the current structure in the organization, because it really wasn't mostly them. This is more. I mean, I feel like the organization changed a lot once the name changed. They hired new people, and those old people were somewhat probably moved out. So it seems like they're trying to build a better culture, but under Dan Snyder, that almost feels impossible. It's like you're just beating a dead horse. Which would be fair. I mean, if season ticket holders got screwed out of their money, then they should obviously get their money back. And once again, fuck Dan Snyder if these things are true. But you would hope it's not. But
yeah, definitely.
So in some better news, the Washington Commanders joined 12 other NFL clubs in kicking off their offseason program on Monday. Players officially reported to the team's home facility, kicking off Phase 1, which is focused on meetings, strength and conditioning, and physical rehab. Yeah. I did see a video of Chase Young, doing some workouts and lifting weights and looking good.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely excited about that. I hope that his recovery is... Yes, I hope he's back for week 1. I really do. It looks like things are going well, given,
He looks like he's going to be ready, man. I mean, I'm certainly excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, NFL teams, they have, like, the best medical, well, they should, type of care with injuries like that. So hopefully he should come back.
Yeah, they send those guys to, like, Dr. James Andrews, who's, like, one of the best surgeons. I know who Dr. James Andrews is. And, like, I by no means am a medical person, but it's like, oh, when you hear Dr. James Andrews did somebody's operation, you're like, oh, shit, he did his ACL? I was like, okay, he's going to be good. So, yeah.
Yeah, shit. I mean, being a doctor is just as like a skill like being a football player. You got really good doctors, and you
want that guy
not so great doctors.
Get that ACL on point, like
exactly. That's who you want.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so go ahead.
I was going to say this year's off-season program is going to be drastically different from the previous years, or at least as of recent, when the pandemic forced teams to have to do virtual workouts, participate in smaller groups with other limits. With all of those restrictions lifted, Washington's players will be able to participate in a much larger capacity, and will give Ron Rivera the opportunity to, actually see what his players can do, with given time, and actually on the field and not have to deal with all of that. I think it's going to be, and obviously that applies to all the other, 31 teams, but it's going to definitely help, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially for those young players, just being able to get into the building and not just do it.
Yeah, you have to be there in
virtually.
person with the coaches.
Yeah.
You have to,
Yeah.
like, and Ron being in his third year, he's really got to prove himself now, and I think he has a good chance now because he's really got a full off season, a full opportunity to go in there and do it the way it should be done, not the bullshit of the last year or two where things were just insane in many different levels.
Yeah, and I mean, Ron obviously stressed the importance of having as many players attend even though it's voluntary, attend as possible. He was quoted as saying that's going to be the truth of the matter, is that this offseason is going to be very important, very vital to what I think is part of the plan. It's time, I think that we see this team start to take a big step forward, and I would agree with that. Going into
absolutely.
Several coaches like Dick Vermeil is like quoted as saying that like in his stops, Dick Vermeil, obviously Hall of Fame coach, with stops in Philadelphia, St. Louis, and Kansas City, won a Super Bowl, was quoted as saying that in all of his stops where he turned teams around, it was the third year that the team really took a difference. Which, that always makes it shitty when a team fires a coach after like 1 or 2 seasons. You really just didn't give him the full, the full experience.
Definitely. I think especially given the last year or two with coaches like in the pandemic, they really maybe should be given, not always, but like maybe a little bit more leeway.
Jay Gruden got almost 6. Jay Gruden got almost 6 years.
Jay Gruden got a little too much leeway.
He got a little too much time.
He did. But yeah, so the off-season program encompasses 9 weeks, starting with phase 1 in the first 2. Phase 2 allows players to participate in on-field drills and covers the next 3 weeks, while Phase 3 spans the final 4 weeks, including 10 days of OTAs, and that include non-contact drills.
Yeah.
And Commanders' OTA sessions are going to be on May 23rd to the 26th, May 31st to June 2nd, and June 6th to the 8th. And this is followed by the veteran minicamp, and that will take place on June 14th to the 16th.
Yeah, when you start getting into OTAs and minicamp and like in your training camps and stuff, that's when the off season starts to get, like, free agency is exciting and the draft's exciting, but everything in between that is like really boring. But like when you start like seeing that, because that's when you start seeing the position battles, you know who they're going to get in the draft, and it's going to be like, okay, you can start seeing what your linebacker competition's like, or like what the competition's like in the secondary or along the offensive line. So really start to see things taking shape. And these are really great because it gets everybody in the building together. So, these guys like Carson Wentz getting to come in and meet all of his teammates for the first time, Andrew Norwell coming in. So this is a really great opportunity for everybody to start to jive and develop that chemistry.
Absolutely. And it's needed with, when there's fresh people on team. I mean, just like with any team, I think the pandemic really did do a lot, a number on a lot of teams in terms of that.
It really changed the way that the offseason and the way that you do business.
Yeah, and just like no fans on top of all the other, it had to be quite tough, for all of the teams, during that, especially the teams that got really hard. Like I cannot believe last season when Washington got hit with all the injuries and all the COVID, there was like 30 players out. I will never forget that. That was just insane. And we had a 4-game win streak, and then, oh my God.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It definitely stalled the momentum for sure.
Yes, it was, But that wasn't even the team's fault. That was just, shit. It is what it is. Yeah. So I'm definitely excited, for how next season's going to look, and excited to see how the OTAs look and all of that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I figure, the next show we have will probably be, we'll try to bring you guys a show the day after. The draft's in a week. Try to give you a show a week. So we'll report on who the next show. You guys will know who we got, and we'll go over the draft picks.
It's definitely time. You wait. It's like there's a couple months between each big date. So you're like, all right, I'm ready. Come on, let's go. Who we getting?
Yep. Exactly. So we'll let you know.
Yep, absolutely.
Enjoyed the show. If you're not already, make sure that you like and subscribe and follow us on all of the social media platforms. and check out our other video clips, like the Niners news update.
And the Commanders Countdown.
That's right. See you next week, everybody.